Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proving Grounds Pod, your one-stop shop for all things Proving Grounds. My name is Max, and I'm joined by my constant co-host, Cubby. And today we are here with a very special guest on this fine Wednesday evening. Right after the UGP finals, we've got Zoo, the coach for Maryville Sports, or Maryville University, the esports program for league. I'm talking too much. Zoo, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Doing all right. Just using the week for scrimming and self-improvement and going into C-Law playoffs technically this weekend,
Oh, yeah.
but we have, yeah. So, and just getting ready for the second tier one tournament.
If you're not in a conference, that starts this weekend with your first quarterfinal. Or is top 8 still for conferences?
Yeah, but we have a bye, so I don't remember really off the top of my head if
Interesting.
we're playing this Saturday or not. I forget. I would have to double check.
Okay. Yeah. Is it the last week of regular season? Then the bracket starts?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
no. So no. So week 6 happened already,
Mhm.
on this Saturday or this past Saturday. So our bracket starts, but according to the bracket, we had a bye, or we have a bye for the first round of playoffs because we're once. So, but then again, also there was I think there's only a couple matches being played this Saturday because there's half the teams got a bye.
Interesting.
I'm not really too sure. I might just be totally wrong on that, and we might
No,
be playing
that's fine.
Saturday,
I know that C-Law is
yeah.
usually a bit of a mess, but also
I just forget if we're playing that day or not. I'm
mhm.
pretty sure we're not though.
I know we're not in the North anymore. We're in the conference it's the MAC for football, but it's called I
Hmm.
think the ESEA for
Yeah,
esports. So we're on a bit of a different schedule. So, but yeah,
yeah,
good to hear that that's going forward. Obviously, the North still very very competitive as always. Even though you guys are top dogs, should be interesting to see who gets out. Do you guys send 2 or 4 teams?
I think it's 2.
2. Okay.
I want to say 2.
Yeah, it sounds right because I know that with all the conferences now coming in, the top 32s, how they get there is definitely a little bit different this year.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's going to be some names that don't make top 8
Hmm.
from the North.
As always.
We're playing. I think we would, if we win our second round match. I think we play potentially Columbia College in the third round or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Might face
you
Bethany
know,
early. That's another decent team from the North.
Bethany's on the other side of the bracket.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
the 2 seed, but
Okay. That makes sense.
Bethany, ISU, and Illinois Wesleyan
They're all
are
good.
all clumped together
Yeah.
as well. So we'll see how it plays out. But
That's gonna be actually some really good matches. All 3 of those teams are pretty good. So
yeah,
yeah.
we'll see how it plays out.
Oh, you guys are also busy the rest of the week next week with
Hmm.
Giant Slayer.
Yep.
That's starting up on Monday, the 8th of March. And you guys are potentially going to be having a collegiate duel there as well with your second match. You'd have to beat Mirage in round 1, but
Hmm.
then you'd be up against Winthrop, the other collegiate team that made it into the scouting or the proving grounds, excuse me, tier
Hmm.
ones.
Yeah.
So that might be a fun matchup as well.
Yeah, I'm liking our side of the bracket for that for sure. Think we definitely got the lighter side of the bracket, so we just have to take advantage of that. And we've played all the teams on that side too, or at least the teams we're expecting to play. So we're not really going into any unfamiliar territory or anything like that. Feeling pretty comfortable, strategically against these guys. So hopefully we get our second crack at Golden Guardians because I felt like we should have 2-0'd them the first time, and they did a good job coming back. But I feel like we can take a series against them if we rematch.
Right? Yeah, that is a revenge tour, I suppose, for that one. I didn't even realize that because, yeah, of course, Golden Guardians Academy did play in Challengers Uprising, which is awesome. They're the only
Mhm.
academy team to do so.
Yeah, kudos to them for doing that. By the way, I know
Absolutely.
Coops is really proactive on his players' growth, and I think that was a really smart decision to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot of respect for that franchise, how they've kind of built themselves up from year one, which was definitely not like the smoothest year for any of us. So
I mean, obviously, like bouncing around, like your relationship with them too is pretty cool because they grabbed 2 year players as well and won LCS. So it's like, I mean, somewhat off topic, but like speaking more on that, like, how does their commitment to amateur compare to like some of the other LCS orgs that like you've seen, or just like they're not even that, like just like the firsthand experience like you've had working with them?
I think, well, I really respect like the amount of effort that Anero and like all of them put in. I don't necessarily know a lot of them too personally, like Danon and Jonathan and like all those people, because they kind of came in once I was let go. But you know, people like Hunter Lay and Spellsy who do like operations and stuff there, and Anero who I have like a relationship with, like those people have done like a killer job in the past couple of years, and I think they kind of leaned into their identity really well. You know, ever since year one, I remember Golden Guardians talking about how they wanted to be like the people that put NA players on the map, and I think like execution of that year one was like not so great. I think we were all just really new to what we were doing. But like year 2, 3, they've really leaned into that, and I think they've done a good job. And like their scouting and stuff for amateur talent feels really like top tier. So yeah,
That's a good point.
it's definitely great.
I remember when they first joined the league, and they were the only team in LCS that didn't have any imports, and that was a really neat talking point for them. Of course, like you said, didn't work out too well for as far as like standings are concerned, but
Yeah,
it is really neat that they're continuing that trend where they are bringing in a lot of new talent from North America, and their only import, Newbie, he's as his name would imply, I suppose.
His region
also
was
relatively
dissolved.
new.
Yeah.
That as well.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, but yeah, lots of sweet stuff for Golden Guardians. We had Prismal on the show a couple days ago too. Great guy to talk to. He told us a lot about how that organization is looking in this year too, and yeah, super great that they're taking part in Challenge Uprising, and now Giant Slayer also. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if you guys can have that match against them too. Of course, they likely have to play against Evil Genius's Prodigies too, so that might be a pretty cool matchup also.
yeah, we'll see how EGP like progresses. I think they've been stalling out pretty hard over the past like 3 weeks or so, but you know, they have like their staff for their franchise, and the amount of effort that they put into that program is second to none. So you know, even if it was stalling out and kind of plateauing, it's not going to be like that forever. So we'll see how they improve.
Yeah. Speaking of player improvement here, you as the coach for Maryville University's team, like we just mentioned, you just recently over this offseason in the scouting grounds process as well, you had 2 of your players go directly to LCS, not even to Academy. You're top and jungle on the Maryville main squad, Niles and Iconic, immediately going to LCS. I guess I haven't talked to you directly about this. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you big pop off in the moment, but I was popping off. How are you feeling about that whole process?
You know, really proud of them. I don't really think it's something that I really like kind of credit myself at all for. I think, you know, while I've definitely improved like the 2 individually and all that stuff, we kind of were approaching that team more of just trying to put pieces together and everyone on the same page. I'm not teaching Niles how to freeze a wave, you know, like we're just like looking at the timers together as a team to see when the freeze is applicable, you know. It's less about like really teaching them the nitty gritty every day, and more just like reinforcing things, keeping things in check, and like maintaining discipline and aiming for consistency. So, the natural talent that those two brought to the program was like really incredible. And not only just natural talent in game, but also out of game. They're two of like the most personable people, really easy to like get along with in and out of game. And, Niles was definitely a lot more vocal than Iconic, but Iconic was also very, very loud in like the presence that he brought, very calm, very consistent, always like seeing a good outlook on, and, it's that, like I said, it's their accomplishment. So it's definitely proud of them and definitely glad that we could help. But my goal at the end of the day is just to make players happy and successful. So I kind of considered myself doing my job, and then they did their job and more. So
to be fair to Iconic too, it's hard to be more vocal than Niles, more personal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that guy's got a strong personality, just naturally. It's fun to see.
Talk a lot on his streams. It's all just EDM.
That's true. That's true. But his playlist I do like better than Tenacity's. So that's key coming on in, as Tenacity loves his 1v9 playlist as well. That said, moving on, I think that your team is interesting because, yes, obviously Niles and Iconic went pro. Also, shout outs to Value, an ex-player of yours who just, that team just blitzed all of UGP as well. But with the replacements coming on in, obviously you're a collegiate team. You have to field a roster every single year. You managed to get someone that we've had on the show before. Also, so it actually makes it the first time we've had two people from the same org, along with like first coach, but also someone who has a lot of pro experience under his belt in shippies. I mean, this guy has traveled internationally, going to MSI, right? Competed at a really high level of League of Legends. What's it been like incorporating him into your program and kind of like seeing what he brings to the table, having that experience in his background as well?
Well, starting off, he's a really talented player, and he's got crazy work ethic, and he's got a lot of like raw energy. And it's kind of similar to like Niles. We just need to slot him into the program effectively and just kind of direct that energy into like consistently benefiting the team. And we recruit really talented players, but the three things that always stay constant at Maryville is do your job, put the team first, make every day count. So it's definitely been like a challenge. Whenever you have new players, you need to kind of get everyone on the same page, get them to the same starting point, regardless as to how experienced or talented those players are. A new team is a new team, and you have to start from some sort of step one. So it's definitely been a challenge. I handled visas for the first time in my career, so that was a new thing. Yeah, so fortunately, like Clerky's really on top of that shit, and he's a wizard with that stuff. But I had to like be a part of that process, and I've never done that before. So learning experience, and then also just putting in the extra effort to make sure that somebody that's that far away from their home is feeling comfortable and feeling like that they can trust me and the team and the program. But it's been good so far. Like Ryan's a really, really vocal player, and he's really like willing to just work with his teammates and just kind of put the team first. So
he was fun to talk to. You can definitely feel like the drive just talking with him about the game. Like you can feel that like in the call, which I think is really unique.
Yeah, he's got a killer outlook on things.
Yeah.
One of the first conversations we actually ever had was like talking about the kind of coach that he likes to be coached by, and he was like, "Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash?" And I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That," and I was like, "All right, bet." So,
wow.
Yeah. But yeah, he's been somebody. Yeah, he's been somebody I've been looking at for a long while, actually. So this has been kind of a couple years in the making, believe it or not. So, yeah.
It was also fun talking with him because one of the reasons that he ended up choosing Maryville was actually the fact that he would have the chance to potentially, like post-COVID world, compete internationally again because of collegiate worlds, right? Which I didn't think of that until he mentioned it, and it's funny like the weight that he puts on competing internationally. Obviously, his plans to get to LCS and play at the highest level of the league, but the fact that Proving Grounds doesn't have that tagline at the end. I like doesn't have like the rainbow to the pot of gold in China. it ends in Academy, right?
Yeah, and that's actually something that Maryville really prides itself on.
Yeah.
Maryville offers an experience of international travel and competition that's only matched by the top 3 teams in LCS. So really, there's only 4 programs that are consistently giving you that experience. That's usually TL, C9, and then maybe TSM, and then Maryville. So, it's something we really value ourselves on, and that's actually one of the reasons why we were looking internationally for a top laner specifically. We had a good pool to choose from. We were looking at, we were trying out like Pabu and TN, who's now at CLG. Pabu's with jungling with I forget exactly what the team name is, but
they're in the new LPL league,
LCO or whatever it's
LCO,
called.
You're right, correct. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then Chippy's was a standout for sure, but I'm kind of a topside centric outlook on things when it comes to the game, and I wanted somebody that had international experience, and the reason why I wanted to do that was because of the potential of us going international again. I wanted to have that person ready because the rest of the program by now has traveled internationally, or at least the starters have. So we just wanted to make sure that we brought someone into the States that is that well-rounded, that that gets gives them a higher chance of getting picked up by franchises, and then also gives us a higher chance of finally taking a world championship once we go.
You mentioned that you have a top side, strong side outlook on things too, and I knew that before I even talked to you with Niles and Chippies, of course. Did you have that same framework in mind from last year when looking at the rest of the players that you put on the team in Orange and Evan?
Yeah, for sure. I don't really have a strong side top outlook on things. I don't really. My outlook on strong side, weak side is a little bit more loosely defined than the way things traditionally go. I operate more on like an offense and defense structure, play calling structure, which is a little bit more free flowing, and it lets you kind of break down the game a bit more intensely, I would say, and maximize your decision making. But it also is enabled by having strong players. So it's kind of one of those things where I don't think I'm a strong side top focused coach. I just think I put a lot more resources into top than other teams do. But at the end of the day, we feel confident carrying through top, carrying through bot, carrying through jungle mid. So, but to answer your question,
I'm joking.
Yes, we're looking for flexibility, but we're looking for playmaking potential in everybody. At the end of the day, franchises are looking for well-rounded competitors. If you're the pop-off like Chase player, you need to be able to show that you can play the Ornn and the Gragas too. That's something I told Niall when he was at Maryville. So we just have players that are able to play both sides, and if they're not able to play one side as well as the other yet, they're here to learn and they're open-minded about it. So flexibility is the name of the game, and then consistency is king, and then we're aiming for firepower, which all 3 of those players have. So
awesome.
Yep.
This is slightly off topic, but I had a great time watching Orange and his bet with Julian the other day for solo queue LP.
Yeah.
That was a very fun time. The fact that they got the game against each other for the last game, that was a good one.
What were the stakes for that? What
I don't
are we
know.
talking? Yeah,
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I had to be honest.
Yeah,
I think it was cash.
I like that,
but I don't really remember off the top of my head.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of friendly competition, some betting amongst teammates. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're all really competitive.
Yeah,
really competitive.
It's good to it's good to have that, foster that and have everyone push each other to be better, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like something that you can accelerate, but it's not really something you can teach. You got to find the people that have it.
Yeah,
already, and then you just got to kind of foster that competitiveness.
Also, like when your peers motivate each other, like no matter how much like a coach tries, sometimes like having a peer make that bet, it can motivate players in ways that you just like as a coach you can't, right? Like I say that like as a coach, like if there's a solo queue bet going on and like to who hits master tier first between two of my players, minus like it makes a way bigger difference like if those two are competing against it, whether it's like, all right guys, like let's have a race to see who's gonna hit master tier first, which that's way different when those people are pushing each other's buttons for them. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of like just everyone is pretty linked into the same goal. So we all want to win NA, and then we want to go win collegiate worlds. So hopefully it happens.
Yeah, the first time it did, I forget who was casting, but I remember like staying up and like listening to like see like what ended up going on for those games, because it was so early in the morning they were being broadcasted here. It was like 3 a.m. or something. 4 a.m.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, man.
Yeah.
Like we were also playing it like later in the we were playing like later in the evening, like around like like 9 p.m. ish, sort of stuff. And then it's an outdoor tournament too, so or at least the one in Sanya, China was. But the one in Hong Kong was a bit more in the afternoon stuff. That one was beautiful. I mean, both of them were, to be honest, but
that's pretty cool. Hopefully you guys get back there. Obviously, collegiate, it is getting a little bit more competitive as the years go on, which is good. But you guys, despite increased competition, keep on finding ways to maintain your top spot, which is hella impressive as well.
We're 2 steps ahead.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, that's the key when you're on top. It's really hard to stay on top, and you guys have managed to do that so far. Hopefully that goes well. That said, getting more closer to like back to proving grounds. Top 10 in points.
Yep.
Despite not participating in Risen, which I think is a nice asterisk for you guys. Really tough matchup, round 1 against EGP. Obviously, you guys ended up winning that, which is great. Dropped out. You find yourself once again back in Wisdom. Smacks, do you know what their matchup is round 1?
Yes.
Yes.
We mentioned it a bit, but specifically, you guys are against Mirage in your first round, and if you win that, you're against Winthrop. So
another collegiate rematch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should be a ton of fun. Yeah. You're gonna get casted by one of us. It's gonna happen. So
yeah, I mean, it'll be a good time.
Probably by both, but it's forced. But that said, going into Giant Slayer, we haven't seen you guys in a week, a little bit more than a week by the time the event starts. What can we expect out of you and the rest of your squad compared to like what we saw when you guys were knocked out of UGP?
I think the biggest thing is we're just more consistent with finding our footing. We're kind of the team. If you look at most of our losses, we're kind of the team that either played a bit too fast and threw a gold lead, or we were the team that when we got just outclassed or beaten, it was usually when it was like we had to play a string of games. So people are feeling a bit more like frantic or, transitioning from one opponent to the next from day after day after day. Like you kind of tend to get it all jumbled and you find yourself responding to the enemy team more. And, one of the big things that we've been focusing on is just being able to like assess the situation in the game and just like identify tempo state and, just kind of like set our conditions early to make sure that when we're ahead or behind, like we're feeling like even if we're sacrificing something and overloading one side of the map, we're feeling productive and proactive. Because we're a team that was like a 4K gold lead didn't feel like enough to us, but then we fall down 1,000 gold, we feel like the game is over. So, it was just our decision making and our consistency in like assessing the game state that just needed a bit of work. And everyone's got their job to do in the game, so we've just been kind of like working on setting the framework and more consistently.
That's very similar to what I was feeling watching the games as a spectator too. I'm glad that I was right, but just for my analytical purposes. But yeah, I definitely was kind of waiting for something to happen in the Counter Logic Gaming Academy series, kind of felt like it never did. I don't mean that as like flame or anything.
I mean, we played
But
bad. It's just how it
yeah.
is. They were smart too. They took red side when they only had like they kind of did the same thing that we did with Solfide, which is, they're just using their advantage well. Like, we didn't get to watch much of CLG coming into the tournament, and Solfide didn't get to watch us coming into the tournament when we first played them. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously an advantage you have, so you just got to use it and just accept it. And they had like something along the lines of like 75% of their games on blue side, and they took red. So, good for them. And it was tough. And, I fucked up a couple of the drafts. So, a couple meaning both in the series, right? So, it's pretty off night for me and for the team and stuff like that. But, is what it is. I feel like if we rematch against them, we'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
What
Cool
do you
thing
feel
about
like?
the rest of... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, like, how do you guys feel like this year? I feel like the wall was knocked down between amateur and academy, right?
Yep.
For you though, it's been one of 3 teams where, it's also the fact that collegiate and academy now are intermingling. For this next tournament, there are 3 academy teams that are still around. One of those being CLG, obviously, who find themselves back in Giant Slayer. But like for you, like as the top dogs of collegiate, like what does it mean for you to be able to take your team up against academy rosters, and not just in scrims but also like on stage?
It just feels productive. It feels depending on the structure that it's in, it could feel more productive or less productive. But I feel like when you get to practice against academy teams, which we've had like the blessing to do so a few times, and like you just feel like you're getting more out of your scrim. But it doesn't really feel like it's nothing special or anything like that. They're just another team that we have to play. And we've played against good teams internationally and stuff too, and we've even back in 2019 we were scrimming like TSM Academy and stuff going into CLL champs. So that's kind of always where the bar's been for us for the past 2 years. And it's fun that we get to do it on camera now, but realistically, that's the only thing that's changed in the past couple of years.
Do you feel like you are able to help develop these players that are coming through Maryville's doors better in Proving Grounds, Collegiate, or the old Scouting Grounds format from last year?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say they all have their advantages and they all have their disadvantages. Their disadvantages are quite large, but I think it just I think there's something to gain out of all 3. I'm not just going to give some cop out shit answer. Like I'll explain.
Yeah.
But, I think there's something to gain in all 3. And then I think there's something unnecessarily detrimental in all 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, what matters is like the standard that you have internally. If you're playing collegiate, let's say, so like the upside of collegiate is that it's the only fucking league that actually allows you to practice. So that's nice. But then again, the opponents that you play against are definitely not up to your standard. But
95% of the time for you guys.
Most of the time, yeah. Like most of the time, yeah. So like it really just comes down to like setting a standard internally. So, you just make sure you play well. Like when we played Michigan State week 6, we weren't just treating it like another CLO match. Like we spent a couple days practicing what we were going to play against them and all that stuff. Like I take CLO really fucking seriously. So, I don't want any slip ups at all ever. So, there's advantages and disadvantages there. If we had better opponents in C-Law, like maybe a divisional system,
Please. That'd be so fun for you guys, and like also for viewers, because it's finally getting to the point where like there are 10 to 12 teams where if you formed a league, like it would be competitive. It would be very competitive with like the top 10, 12 teams from across the country, right? If you have a league with like the Winthrop and the Bethany and ISU, IWU, Columbia, those are like all from like the north and the east. You can find plenty of good teams that can compete in there. UCI would be one that probably end up in the like top 10, 12, right? It'd be a fun league. Like if they played every week, like that would be something like they could gain traction, gain viewership. It'd be really tough to quantify like who actually goes into that league, but I think that'd be great, and it'd be so like just astronomically better for you guys, because the reality is you only get 3 or 4 good best of 3s or best of 5s a year. That's just because like your first match you're playing, bronze players, right? Because they want to include every college. I think they should.
Yeah.
But for a team like you, you shouldn't have that for your first match. Every match you should play should be really competitive. That's how it is if you're in the SEC for football, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you definitely have like your opponents every so often that you just kind of blow them out of the water. But it definitely would be nice to not have to aim to play for time or speed run and shit like that. So, but CLOL playoffs is always fun. I would say that CLOL regular season is pretty awful, but the playoffs are really fun.
Top eights get really competitive. Even like the North, once you get to the top 8 of the North, that's really competitive now this year too. And honestly always has been between you and Columbia being in there, right? And teams like looking to knock you guys off. So
yeah. But collegiate definitely has that. I mean, scouting grounds over the summer. The upside was the fact that it was over the summer, so you would actually get mornings and daytime and stuff like that.
So you could worry about classes as much for the students.
Yep. You could spread your meetings out and stuff like that. So, for example, if we played at like 6 p.m., we would do our draft meeting at like 2 p.m. Something like that. We would do our VOD, and then we could maybe do a warm up or something. People could go take a couple hours, play solo queue, get warm, stuff like that. The downside, obviously, was the fact that you played the same fucking teams every week, and you played 6-7 times a week, which was horrendous. But again, like an potential upside, and then like a unnecessary downside, and then with proving grounds, it's basically kind of the same thing, where there's like one upside and then there's kind of one big blunder. It's just the fact that, we're playing less matches, so that's a big upside. And the viewership has gotten significantly better. And I feel like the casting talent has gotten a lot better too, which helps, kind of build player brands and narratives and stuff like that. But the downside is the fact that this schedule for certain, I would say for non-salaried teams, are like, this schedule is like worse than SGC, because you're playing only maybe 4 times a week instead of 6 or 7, but players have class and all that sort of stuff. I have administrative stuff that I have to do during the day too. There's a lot of things that go on, and if you're somebody in like a Sola Fide or a no org, or maybe like an EGP or something like that, where you're not going to school or anything like that, and this is kind of your main focus, then I think that doesn't really affect you. But for us at Maryville, that's just kind of another hoop that we have to jump through, and that's kind of just been like our story for the past 2 years, is like, how many hoops do we have to jump through that other teams don't? And then like we still manage to kind of stay relevant. It's kind of one of those things. Each has upside and then drawback.
Yeah, I think that the way that you painted it, obviously very reasonable, makes a lot of sense. Very interesting though, like to hear like more long form, because I agree with a lot of those points. I think that Proving Grounds, like as a whole, I know like we've all had, overall it feels like an improvement, right? Like the idea that you can now, as an amateur team, practice and scrim against an academy team more consistently because the rosters line up, and get exposure to them in tournaments and on stage. Fantastic, right? We all have some minor things that we can fix. I know we've talked through those a lot. But it still feels like I the point that you bring up, like with it being almost like teams, like there's not enough support in the scene to be ready for this format, because like a lot of these teams still are not salaried, right? And it's a big time commitment. I feel like you really want to grind it out and try and really compete with these academy teams as well.
Yeah,
sure, it's a big
risk. For example, like there's a lot of teams that have benefited from like daytime scrims, and there's a Discord out there that has like academy teams and LCS representatives and stuff mixed with the top 16. like I'm an admin for that.
Yeah,
So like, fortunately,
those teams can only ping you, correct? If they're LCS.
yeah, correct. So you just
Yeah.
ping like the people down basically, unless you open yourself up. But that's something that people in the LCS started, kind of brought. It's like me, Fallen Bandit, and Lena are the three people that are doing like the admin work there, and that's nice. Like it's really great that teams have been able to scrim more during the day, but it's like we don't get to at all. like so we get to scrim during the day maybe like twice a week, and
Considering you
that's
have
still
that many schedules, that's actually crazy too. Like with
yeah.
classes.
Well, that's an advantage that Maryville has, is that like, and I guess it's one of the things that you can take advantage of with COVID is the fact that classes are more online now. So, there are classes at Maryville where you're kind of completing the coursework week by week, and it brings a lot of flexibility and all that stuff. So, but it still hinders us. Like it's actually been harder for us to find scrims this year than year prior. So, but, just kind of rolling with the punches, and it's definitely benefited teams as a whole. I don't want to make it seem like it's a bad thing just because it's harder for us, but
I obviously
definitely
like this format, like it wasn't designed with your team in mind. Like,
yeah,
you are. I'm surprised that there are 3 collegiate teams that are doing this and competing at this high of a level, right? I thought there might be 2. I actually didn't think that Winthrop would be the second one, but they have a really good roster. Another ex-player, yours as well, Saskio, on that
you
team
got 2
too.
of them.
Yeah, hybrids too, right? Was on one
And then
your roster at one point.
Their new staff from OS came from our combine.
Oh, awesome! That's good too. Yeah, no, Winthrop's been really, really glad to see like collegiate representing, but obviously, this was designed with amateur in mind and not collegiate.
Yep.
And the fact that there are collegiate teams that are able to compete at the highest level in amateur as well is fantastic. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, everyone has their own distractions they're going to have on any team, but obviously being a collegiate team, it's going to give you a few more hurdles that you have to jump through and deal with and overcome.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, again, we have a lot of hoops to jump through, but we're all really competitive and we're all really passionate people. So, it's kind of, while it's annoying, it's definitely, we're just going to keep doing it. We're just going to kind of roll with it and kind of just always find a way to make it work until we're just undeniable.
I like that word. Undeniable. So far in collegiate, you guys have been nothing but undeniable with your stint. Also, congrats to Corky if he tunes in on his extension as well. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. You guys have the best program that there is in the country. So it's really good to see that the people that got the program there, being rewarded as well with extensions. And yeah, now the next step for you is just to be undeniable and amateur as well. I know that you took 3rd place in SGC for Face It last split.
The past 2 years.
Past 2 years, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty damn good for a collegiate team, I must say. Obviously, I know that you guys went first, but that's pretty damn good too.
For any team.
No,
it's pretty damn good.
No.
Yeah, we're pretty happy. Like considering the hoops, like I said, we had to jump through. Like finishing top 3 feels pretty good. I always tell the players like I'll never be frustrated ever if we're just outclassed by people. And I think that I think those 2 years there were just people that were or teams that were just better than us, and that's kind of how it was. And
Anu was really good.
So we just feel like we kind of earned our spot. There's definitely some hiccups we had, but top 3 is definitely nothing to look over for sure.
Oh God, no. Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment for any team, but also being a collegiate team once again, really awesome to see.
Do you feel like you guys are slotted to take a proving ground spot in Giant Slayer?
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Sweet.
Top 4.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's actually amazing. Like, obviously, 12 teams, 4 spots, right? But, like, it's interesting to me with the top tier of amateur now gone, minus Barrage, right? The only team that took top 4 in all 3 events. I think we're in for a really fucking fun tournament. Like, I really think, like, there's been this saying that, the best team on the day can take it in amateur. I felt like, with no org being an org, like, I felt like they were still going to end up winning in the end. Solo FIDE 2, the other team that took top 4 in amateur, not in big, but for 2, also won Risen. But I mean, Jesus, like that is going to be a really fun tournament. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys are as well.
Yeah, I've been saying for the past 2 years, ever since I've been hired in Maryville. Actually, 2019 champs. I asked Riot for a bunch of printing paper and markers, and I wrote it a bunch of times and taped it onto the wall in our practice room. But said anybody can beat anyone on any given day, except for when you're consistent. And consistency is king at this level. These sorts of tournaments do not harbor consistency at all. So it really just kind of comes down to who shows up mentally and who's more prepared on the day. And I think there's, like I said on your stream a while ago, I think like the chances of a team losing as the days go on gets higher because they're not able to adequately prepare, recover, all that sort of stuff, adapt, and all that shit. So, day one, I don't really think we'll have any surprises like we did with like the Barrage one. But you even look at the Barrage example from the last fucking tier 1, like they played the previous like 3-4 days before that. So
it's tough.
I don't think we'll have any surprises on day 1 because people have been able to practice, get prepared, all that stuff. But day 2, day 3 is when you're going to start seeing teams falter, and you kind of see who can beat anyone. And we're aiming to beat that team with consistency. So, we'll see how it plays out.
Fun thing about Giant Slayer 2 that you might not catch on to if you are looking at both brackets side by side. If you lose the first match, you aren't immediately out. So that is
Thank
also...
Thank God. Also, they flipped the lower bracket too.
Let's be really clear about something, though. The downside of that is the fact that the people who play in loser semis and losers finals to go to grand finals have to play 2 best of 3s in the same fucking day, and it starts at like 6 p.m. or something like that. So they're going to be playing till like 2 o'clock in the morning. So
potentially true.
There are multiple matches in a single day.
Pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, so I don't want to seem too accusatory. But from the bracket that I saw losers having to play 2 best of 3s in one day.
I don't think that's on here.
Maybe I'm just wrong, but I definitely saw a rendition of that where that was happening.
Yeah, it looks like that's been fixed unless I am going crazy.
Beautiful, because I kind of caused a bit of an internal thing with that.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, then I don't think anyone would.
Perfect. Well, then it was changed, yeah. So if that's the case, that's great. But originally, that was going to be the cost of not having a knockout round.
Yeah, it looks like it is just
we're climbing through our Discord right now.
Yeah, I was just like scrolling through the bracket thing to see if that was the case, because if it was,
well, hopefully it's not.
I would just DM those people right away. It's like,
stretch it out.
Look at this again.
Give us an extra day.
Yeah. But yeah, it's nice that there's no knockout and stuff. It gives people time to adapt and all that shit. So we'll kind of see who shows up on the day. And yeah, I think a lot of the teams are just it's really easy to lock down what they want to do. So I think the teams that are just straight up just more prepared and bring more energy on the day are the teams that are going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's the one thing that we've seen with the top teams in amateur. It seems like there's a really unique and defined style for the top teams that we've seen so far. And
yeah, I really fucking hate that, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really hate it.
Do you think like it's stunting growth in the long run, or
yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so I think everybody's got to try to do their job at the different levels in our region in order for us to kind of play off each other, complement each other, and kind of at the top level churn out our best product possible. So I think there are certain things that you have to do by necessity in these sorts of tournaments. And I think the biggest thing with that is kind of just like nailing down one style that you want to play, because you simply just don't have the amount of repetitions to, or rather, even if you do have reps, like Barrage has played like 60 fucking games or something like that. Like they've been through the ringer. They're a bunch of grinders. Like, they don't have the forgiving nature of scrims to like make mistakes and learn properly. All their mistakes are not only shown to the public, but then they're also harped upon by people on air, and like narratives could be created, like what happened with No Work in the first like tier 2 tournament stuff. Like it's really just, I think style is just a fancy word for being an incomplete team, and obviously that's not agreed upon universally, because if you look at teams like Danwon Kia and stuff like that, like they play a very clear like mid to bot focused style, and are consistently one of the best teams in the world. But I think personally, at our level, amateur, collegiate, getting people to academy, LCS, that sort of stuff, we need to try and sell the players, not financially, but like sell the players as the most well-rounded applicants possible. You need to show that someone like a Niles can play Ornn. Like, if you look at our stats from SGC over the summer, our highest win rate champ and our second most played was Ornn.
Yeah.
So it's like we showed that we could play through top, we showed that we could play through bot, we showed that we could play through jungle. Ethan played Iconic played Trundle first pick for like 2 months straight, and then we switched to Graves Kindred and completely dominated, so like one of the big things that these franchises value is consistency and the ability to sides of the ball, basically, like if you want to use a sports term, like so I really try to do that. I really try to kind of create smart situational awareness in players, help them identify game states, really be smart about using tempo, manipulating tempo, stuff like that. Put them on carry champs, put them on weak side champs, and just kind of get, and even more so, I take it a step further. I put them on strong champs and make them play weak side so that they play, disciplined and that sort of shit. Like, so I don't really think that this space, I'm not saying that these teams are not doing this and they're bad. This is a necessity because of the environment that we're in currently. Whereas if we're able to play like 2 matches a week on Friday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, or something like that, and we have the whole week to prepare, even if we have to play 2 matches or something on Friday and 1 match on Saturday, and you do 3 matches a week, like you're just gonna be more well-rounded as a team. If teams like Nowhere got to consistently practice 4 or 5 times a week, I bet you would see a lot more strong side performances out of value.
That's what I was going to follow up with, is I feel like a lot of the reason why we see one style is because of lack of practice time, and that's due to the schedule.
Yes. And it's fucking horrendous. And I don't the biggest thing, I've said this a million times, but there's a disconnect as to what people know about each other's jobs. So it's just a lack of perspective. So for example, there have been things that I've gotten frustrated with Clerky or with Riot or something like that, where I simply just don't have the perspective that they do to understand the bigger picture. Whereas I believe that Riot and a lot of these tournament organizers don't necessarily understand the perspective of being on a team and understanding how to effectively practice and build skill sets and all that sort of shit. So like the one kind of phrase that will just make me like immediately lose respect for somebody is when they try to tell me to treat a match like a scrim. If you're a competitor, that's just the most bullshit thing you've ever heard in your entire life. So and I've got a program full of competitors, so it's really like we were forced to basically treat matches like scrims. And I had to,
that was everyone's scouting rounds last year. Like if you won game 1, game 2 was a scrim. You were forced to.
Yep. And especially in like the best of 2 format that they had at Cup for viewership and playing 2 matches, best of 2s and stuff. It was like, it's so hard to take that shit seriously. Like if you lose game 1, it's like game 2 is a scrim. if you win game 1 and you fall really far behind game 2, it's like, all right, scrim. It's, I was kind of just like forced to go against my own beliefs, and it makes your job really difficult. And then on top of that, then you got people on the internet not just like casual spectators and stuff, but not even just people in the amateur scene too, but also ownership at the LCS level are now telling me that I don't know how to do my fucking job. And, I don't have as much, like, because we're not developing talent, right? Like, I don't understand how somebody can look from our perspective and say that we're just like blundering, we've got a lot to learn.
Mhm.
I've got a ton to learn still. I've only been doing this for like 4 or 5 years, like
Mhm.
4 years maybe. So
Yeah, scene's
I've
only
got
been
a
around
ton-
for 11 years.
yeah, I've got a ton to learn, but it's like, man, it's just y'all are in a way we're just kind of setting ourselves up to fail.
Mhm.
And maybe in the long run, step one is just increasing viewership, and then step two, it'll make it better for the teams. Maybe shit does get better, but just right now, the transition between scouting grounds and proving grounds to me feels no different.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that it's a drastic step, like improvement step in the right direction, but it was poorly executed. I think that's been my
I mean,
take on it.
there's just no, like, there's no priority of practice
Yep.
at all.
Yep.
Ever. Like in scouting grounds for 2 years, there's no priority on practice, and then for proving grounds, I think the things in proving grounds have gotten a lot better. Viewership has gotten a lot better. Involvement with academies gotten a lot better. I think all those things are great, but we haven't allowed the product to get any better. The people that are getting better and the people that are winning are the people that are just really naturally talented right now. Like, I look at some of the middle of the pack teams and I kind of watch how they've played over the past like 2 months or so, and I don't see them getting any better. Like, I think it's like the top teams are the ones getting better. And I think like, there are some examples like Revival got a lot better. So, kudos to them. Like,
I'd
they
say
definitely got
Zeus is
better.
one of
But
those two.
yeah, Zeus got better too. But like, I would also argue, and not as a slight on Zeus or anything like that, but a lot of these wins that these teams were getting early was when the other team was just beating themselves. Like, you can't look me in the face and like tell me that when your team falls down 7,000 gold 2 times versus another team and then you come out with the win, it's not you like shitting. Like, it's not like, yeah, man, like that was a good game from us or good series from us. It was like, no, the other team had you in their palms and they threw it twice. Like, that's sure, maybe you got better at playing like your defensive side of things, but like that to me, that just seems like the other team had an advantage because they're a stronger team, but they haven't had the time to like flesh things out and be able to close. And yeah, usually the early game is the easiest part of the game that's able to be practiced, and late game is the hardest to practice.
Right.
So when you get no fucking practice, you essentially just come in being able to play the first 15, 20 minutes well, and then after that's a flip. So
Unless you're Barrage and you flip the first crab.
yeah, I mean, but it's like I think I said this on your stream, but
Yeah.
there's I think people have failed to see the difference when teams are underperforming and when teams are overperforming, or like when one team like earns a win or where other team like throws a win.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any semblance of understanding of that.
Part of it's like there are some things that like we're always going to be missing, which is like obviously teams and players. You guys have scrim results where you guys get more info there. I think the biggest thing that my new high horse is that I don't get any POVs. The only POVs I get are off streams. And I want to see, I would love to sit in on scrims and watch players' POVs because I learn a lot from that. And I think it would really help us like figure out like who is good. Like that's something that's really important because I go over a lot of tape. I see a lot of games. Every show match, I've gone like through, but
yeah,
I don't see where they're clicking, and that's like an important part of determining like whether someone is good or not. Like I don't see like where their camera is.
for sure.
Yeah, like there's still like incomplete information for us there too, and I don't think it's ever something that's like going to be solved. The only way it's
Especially
solved
not
is
like
that
the comms aspect of it.
Yeah,
I think I think a lot of it just comes down to just like what kind of comp is the other like what kind of comp is one team playing, like what are their timers that they need to hit, like what are kind of the thresholds, the benchmarks in game that they want to be hitting. They want to have 2 dragons by 14 minutes sort of thing, like they want to break first turret by second herald so that they can use second herald to set up their drake. Like they're just certain thresholds that certain comps are trying to hit by certain times, and um certain item spikes that comps want to fight around and stuff like that. And when you see like a comp with like Olaf, Zoe, and in Jace and like Senna TK, and those guys are down 2k at 19 minutes and then they come back and win the game, it's like, well, I don't think that was a quality win. Like I don't think that's a win that shows you're good. I think that that's a win that shows that the other team is not very good. And granted, you don't want to just say like anytime a team is behind, their win isn't deserved, because playing from behind is arguably more important than playing from ahead.
It's harder. It's a lot harder.
It's a lot harder, and it actually shows when you're a good team.
Mhm.
But then again, that just kind of like emphasizes the ability to view the game objectively and say like, okay, was this proper defense? Like, did they sack one side of the map in order to get tempo on the other side, set up control, and find a pick? Or was it the other team just tried to 2v2 dive at tier 2, and then they gave over a shutdown, gave the Ornn 1,000 gold shutdown, and then they fucked up their tempo for Dragon, and then Ornn's juiced at a neutral? Like, it just, there's not enough of that right now, and it's not anyone's fault. Like we're fighting against time right now. We're all just trying to learn. But if where I'm concerned is where people, that doesn't have to be perfect, but it seems like a lot of people aren't even going that direction. They're kind of going the opposite direction instead, where they're trying to build like the storylines with players and all that sort of stuff. And I understand that's part of the gig, but like, it doesn't really feel like people are kind of like assessing the execution of teams properly. Yeah.
Do you have like, do you have any recommendations for like how you would prefer to see that expressed on a broadcast? Because that's what the two of us are.
Yeah, for sure. So
that's how we can help.
I mean, first off, like what Cubby said about like sitting in and practices and stuff, I think that would just be absolutely incredible. But that's something I didn't even think about from the caster side. But that's something franchises did with us for months. We had like half the league sitting in our scrims for like 2 months straight. And a narrow, like, not only made the players better, but he made me better too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge benefit. I will just truthfully admit I'd be concerned about like competitive integrity, like, and it just increases variables of things getting leaked. I know that there's a bit of like a circle, like a friend group and stuff, and players leak each other's scrims all the time. So it's a really shitty thing. So obviously if it would be able to be like airtight, then it'd be perfect. But I think another way is just kind of understanding understanding what agency comps have, and like what they're able to accomplish like in their respective limits. Like for example, when I see a team like NoWork that's drafting like really heavily for like early game and stuff, and they're consistently roaming big up to top side at 5 minutes and slow stacking and using TPs and stuff, like that to me shows that it's like, okay, if they're able to consistently do that and then accelerate off the early game, I value that more than somebody drafting like 3 triple scaling lanes and then like allowing the other team to make a mistake. So like I think it just comes to like, there's a lot of recently there's been a lot of like Olaf, Udyr stuff, like, or specifically like Olaf and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think LS was kind of like the first caster to really point it out today, where he was saying like Winston, it's a bit like he was on autopilot when he's farming, when his Aatrox is down versus Rise, and they're not really doing anything on the map to try to alleviate him except for a lane swap for like 2 waves. And I just feel like there's not enough of like that criticism there, where it's like, people are either looking at the triple scaling comps and they're saying like, wow, this team's like doing really good, or they're looking at like the team with all early game initiative that's taking the risk but like fumbling, and people are saying, wow, the team's kind of bad. And I don't know. I feel like the improvement can come from just like understanding more what the compositions are supposed to be doing. Yeah.
I see.
I missed today's cast specifically because I actually, speaking on scrims and improvement, just came out of Blitz scrims of our own. But
Ellis and Flowers did a phenomenal job the last 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, Ellis is like one of the most fucking incredible people in the league space. He was actually the first pro coach that I got to work under. He was in my when I was at Tempo Storm in 2017, and the guy is incredibly insightful, and he's a very like comforting person, and believe it or not, and he's just he's a good guy, good heart, and it was really cool to watch him kind of do that. Kind of brings full circle.
Good to see him back, right, casting. But I know that something like, I mean, like that specific thing, I mean, what you just described was literally like No Org versus Solo Fide with top focus versus like, I know that like that's a big storyline we've had for Solo Fide, is that the way they win is letting teams blunder into them.
Yes. And I think that's like when they were winning too. Like if you look at like HEP and Barrage, like those were teams that were victim to overreaching and fucking up their tempo.
Are you saying that Barrage overreaches?
Yeah, a lot. And,
no way.
Yeah. But you know what we do? So like last time we played them, our series was literally, we had a lead, we overreached, they came back and won. Game 2 was they had a lead, they overreached, we came back and won. And then like it was just back and forth for 4 games. And you know, like I will always prefer the team that takes the risk over the team that lets the other team blunder.
In the long run, absolutely. And
yes,
yeah.
But that's what our mindset should be, is long run.
Yeah.
Like we're putting kids through the ringer like unnecessarily. And then like even if the viewership does allow them to get onto a team, maybe they're not their best selves, and it actually hurts them in the long run because their first opportunity might not be their best because they're not necessarily as ready as they could have been. You know, like think about like, let's say hypothetically, right? Like there's a player, maybe there is, I don't, but let's say there's a player that just started playing competitively in Proving Grounds or Scouting Grounds, I mean, over the summer, and then now is playing in Proving Grounds. That player has never double blocked, most likely, in that year, right? Like,
I know of one team that somewhat double blocks here and there, but yeah, you were right.
But yeah, like so, for example, someone like Spyrax, who is in my program,
really talented young mid-laner.
Yeah, he really just started competing with like Supernova Dark Matter over the summer. That was his first competitive team, and you know, so he didn't really get to scrim too much because they were playing so many matches, and then like you know, he came here and he had to play a bunch of matches too. So now that they're out and they're able to just consistently scrim, they've actually been like taking games pretty consistently off our main team, and like they're looking really, really good. And like Spyrax and, you know, Dinka and all them, they're smurfing right now. And
talented,
but that's just what happens when they get to practice. But like if you were to take a player that's only had to play these like kind of grindy show up or show out sort of tournaments 4 times a week and shit like that, like you go to academy and you have to play like 6 games of scrims and get criticized like 6 games in a row, and you have to do that 5 times a week, and then you have to VOD and play solo queue. Like those players are just going to burn the fuck out. Like or they're not going to be their top self because they didn't, every day they have to show up and perform. They don't get to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And like
it's interesting. I do think though that like that's true. I think that more practice is necessary. I'm the one advocating for less tournaments in weeks and like for breaks and then tournaments being stretched out, right? That all breathes more practice. It's necessary. But there is still something like iron does sharpen iron. The fact that I think the bigger issue is the fact that Academy, they only had 9 games. Like when you have
that's the most unacceptable shit ever, by the way. Like Academy, dude, I don't even care if LCS plays best of threes, but Academy, it should be mandatory. Like how can you I don't know. It feels to me like that there's just such a clear disconnect as to what people think is necessary to improve. And like, it's just so obvious that there's a disconnect. Like, there's no way that you can actually unironically say that 9 best of ones is adequate for a player's growth, and then having to wait weeks and then play another tournament where you most likely have next to no information on these guys. And it's like, oh, it's so terrible. It's so
Yeah,
terrible.
and I guess like especially like for players, like I mean, we've talked to Viper, we've talked to Fnatic, we've talked to Tuesday. For them, like coming down to amateur, like obviously they're your much more experienced people, but this
Yeah.
has been like a blessing, like the schedule, right? Because
Yeah.
they have a lot of that knowledge that a younger player like would need to pick up in academy. But now they get to like come back. Like I mean, Viper tweeted
And they
out
get to
today.
use it.
He has his confidence back. Like the
Yeah.
fact that like these guys get to have these show matches and look good and use that knowledge to look good. I think it's the system's flawed. There needs to be more time for practice, but the fact that like there are multiple tournaments where a lot of things can happen, the teams are good, it's more competitive. It's all the general theory is in the right direction. That's why I like to say like it's there. It just wasn't executed as well as it could have been.
Yeah, so I think for the teams where people already kind of have their footing underneath them individually, so you know, teams like Solifide, Barrage, Maryville, like all that sort of stuff. I feel like these formats don't really affect, well, not Maryville, but like let's say like Solifide, No Work, Barrage, et cetera, et cetera. Like these sorts of formats don't really bother you too much because you've already kind of have a grasp on your fundamentals and you just kind of need to piece things together. But like where this negatively impacts the region is kind of creating the people that are going to replace them. Once and the problem right now is that like if the players in the top tier one teams get picked up onto academy and stuff, they're not going to be replaced by like the Spyraxes and stuff of the scene. They're going to be replaced with the people that get kicked for those players in academy. So like, you know, academy players are going to get removed for these top tier one players and they're just going to switch positions. And like there isn't really going to be a whole lot of change, but you know, like obviously we're not following that model. Like we want to develop as well. So you know, when we have people graduate, move on, we are using the 10 players that we have. But it just doesn't really feel like teams get to improve all that much. And like the teams that get to improve are the teams that get knocked out early. So it's like the only time to practice is like when you're losing. It's really shit, you know? So like I look at a team like, for example, like Supernova. And if I look at that team and if I had a month of practice with that team, I think I can make them a lot better than what they are right now. And again, that's not really a big slight on their coaching or anything like that. It's just the fact that they're forced to show up and or show out like every day. And they like their players are a bit more raw and they need more reps and more time. And they need an environment that's not so pressure oriented, you know, like they need reinforcement and stuff like that. So I see those teams like really struggling in these sorts of formats. And unless we just keep salarying like academy players for the top tier one teams, I don't really think we're going to get much more out of the current system.
Do you foresee at all a change in how the off season will operate for a lot of these proving grounds teams going into what we're supposedly told is a next season of proving grounds, like
Over the summer, yeah.
Yeah,
like
lining with the
June,
summer split, yeah.
Do you think that any of those teams are likely to stay together? Because that's never happened before in amateur, I don't think.
I think some teams could stay together for sure.
I think it kind of depends on academy turnover because like there are players like when you look at the Vipers and the Zazels of the world, you can plug and play those players at the next level of play.
Yeah,
And
but it's like, yeah, but what's going to happen is they're just going to buy someone else, you know? So like the middle of the pack teams are going to mostly, like, they're not going to pull, let's say Onda gets picked up from no org. Like there's no way that like Maddie from SN is going to play for no org, right? Like they're going to pick like whatever academy or XLCS player is like really good because they want to win. And that's not bad at all. Like that is not bad. I would do the same exact thing if I were in their shoes, because this is the format we're in currently. This is what you have to work with, and you got to win and you got to make it work.
Yeah.
Like you have to win now in order to be viable in amateur. And they're playing the reality that the best that they can, and I think that's great for them. But I think this reality is just a bit fucked up, and we shouldn't necessarily be operating like this.
The reason I ask is because there's going to be, well, the main Proving Grounds event happens throughout April.
Yeah.
And then we have no idea when the next one's going to start. There's supposedly going to be one in the summer.
Probably like June.
So,
aligned with the summer split, I'm going to assume. Much like this is aligned with spring split.
Because it is the academy split now.
Yeah.
That's what Proving Grounds is.
Yes.
So I'm curious, like, if that sort of off season, if the 5 Supernova players stay together, or the 500 Next players stay together, or Mirage, or any of these guys, that might actually like be a way for them to get that grind in and then be like super good for the next Proving Grounds.
Yeah, maybe.
Obviously, that should be the solution. We should be able to improve during the season.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, if that's the case, like, and they get really good, like, I don't want to make it seem like they're terrible or anything, but it's just like,
no, they're not.
They're a long-term project that's put in a short-term business right now, and it's just they're kind of set up to fail a little bit, and they just got to make the best of it. And you know, if they show up and smurf it in summer, then that only strengthens my point. You know, like saying that they just need time and practice, and you know, I hope they do that. Like, that'd be cool. I actually think that they have a couple players that are quite good. Like, so, you know, Maryville's looked at Array and stuff like that, and Strumpus. And
other people have saw Array's point of view, spoke very highly of him, and I'm really impressed with his positioning in team fights.
We've looked. So Maddie is one that kind of showed up recently, and he's been playing pretty well. He's kind of like a carry. He's like kind of like the iconic of Supernova in a way, where he was like just a consistent carry force on like Graves and stuff like that. And you know, top AD and mid are all players that we've looked at, so you know, they clearly have the components.
And G-Bunny's brand new to league still, swapping over from Paladins. That's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, so you know, they just need the right environment, and they need the right support.
Yeah, I hope they get it, because I want to see those guys improve, and also if I'm casting next Proving Ground split, that makes my job way easier. So then I'm like, I know these guys. I can instantly start talking about them.
I think turnover is going to be. I think turnover is really going to depend on what Academy and LCS teams are thinking, and as long as COVID still exists, that will be harder.
Yeah. It will be.
There's going to be some turnover.
There will be,
as always.
The
LCS season.
I really think there are a couple of the Norg players can just go.
Probably. Well, they should go.
Viper and have just been destroying everyone.
Yep.
I mean,
you know, so I actually messaged you this like a week ago or something, or a couple days ago or some shit like that. But there's very clear big names on that team, but value is single-handedly the most underrated player in this entire tournament.
He's so good. No,
he's legitimately like I would consider him top 5 best player any role in this entire tournament. I've known the guy in 3 different teams over 4 years, and I've seen him play strong side, weak side. Like, he's a player that he is one of the best strong side AD carries in the entire league. And he willingly plays weak side because he cares more about winning with his team than how he does individually. And
he's playing very well on with this role. I have made the joke that it feels like anyone could win with how they play, because that's just how they play, right? Like that AD role, like just the fact that like play for Viper, but that dude, he's very smart. And
Yeah.
when Big roams at 5 minutes, as you mentioned, he makes it work, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
it's been good to see.
Value just wants to win, and he just wants to
Yeah.
play his best. And I've never seen a player who's more individually on top of his shit than Value is. He's always slept, eaten, warmed up. I know those things seem trivial, but like day after day after day after day, he puts himself on his own schedule, his own solo queue goals.
Hmm.
Like he like I didn't make Value any better. Like when he was on Maryville, I just helped him work with the team better. And like, it's I just slotted him in and
Yeah.
like kind of made him like gel with the team and stuff. But he's like such a smart guy, and he's so resourceful, and um he's so flexible, and he's really just like it that whole like you sitting in on scrims
Hmm.
sort of thing, like if that was commonplace for franchises, he would have been picked up 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's just yeah. That's what happens though when you're a team that kind of only strategically kind of plays one way. Is like players like him are just overlooked. You
Yeah,
can even see
it's
it in the narratives now. Like
yeah.
he's getting outshone vocally by like all the other players on his team. When I actually think that him and Onda have been the two most consistent players on their team.
Hmm.
So like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
think Onda is a freak. He is just a step above everyone. I think Fnatic's almost the same way, and like Anda's been a step above him. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Anda has been the best player in the amateur side of Proving Grounds, like
I
for
would
sure.
give that one to Viper, but Anda would be my number
Viper's
two.
pretty solid too.
I
I would
is
give it,
number two.
I would give it to Onda over Viper more so because Viper's the one that's getting all the resources.
This is true.
So,
He does cash it
Yeah.
in though, which
but
is
that's
yeah,
but that's like even like obviously you didn't mean it like that, but like if we can
yeah,
use that as like a microcosm for like the bigger picture, like
yeah,
because Viper's the one getting resources and Value isn't, like people see Viper as a more impressive player,
yeah,
and I think
exactly.
that's I think that's something where it's like again, it's a product environment. You have to win now, but I'm not saying Viper is like a bad player. I legitimately think that like the players on No Org are like, if you were to make a top 10, all five of them are on the top 10.
I think
And
you can slot the majority of their players into LCS and they would fit right in.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
it just depends to like what team. So for
The
example,
majority,
like
yeah,
if you're putting, I think if you were putting um, Viper on a team that exclusively plays through bot lane, I think
yeah,
he probably won't slot into LCS very well. But then
yeah.
again, that's also just poor scouting from the LCS team
Hmm.
in itself. Like if you look at Golden Guardians, like they took Niles and Iconic and they put them on the exact shit that they knew that they could do. Like
Yep.
they put them on GP, they put them on Graves, they put them on like that sort of stuff. And they've been expanding more. They've played the Udyrs and the Graguses and stuff like that. But
Kind of have to in this meta, but yeah,
yeah,
they have
you
as
have
well.
to.
Yep.
You have to, but like they're also leaning into those players' identities, and I think
Hmm.
that's like
Yeah.
smart. Whereas you see like the TSMs of the world and stuff would just take someone like Spica and just put him on Sejuani every game. Like if you look at now what he's done in Worlds, where they prioed Nidalee and Nidalee, Lilia, all that sort of stuff, like he's been smurfing. And if you look at like how Cloud9 uses Blabber, like that's a perfect example. They don't put in a meta that was dictated by all control junglers. Like Blabber played fucking Gragas, Lee Sin. This was last spring. He played like
Olaf
Gragas, Lee Sin, Olaf
exclusively.
exclusively,
Yep.
and like they made it work. They're not putting him on fucking Jarvan, Sedge, all that stuff. But
Hmm.
it's important for the player to be able to do that if you need to. But
Mhm.
yeah, like those players should just be in pro, and like this shouldn't even be a discussion in the first place. But unfortunately, it is.
I think that's definitely a team that's going to have the biggest turnover. There's going to be some academy turnover too, for sure.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely.
see.
If Ayla is in academy in the summer, I'm going down to Riot headquarters. I'm beating up some people. Like I'm just gonna throw some hands because that guy's the best player in academy for sure. But as we have we've kept you here for quite some time here, Zoo. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
It's been
it's been 80 minutes. Time flies, but it's been
Yeah.
fun. I've enjoyed this conversation and getting your perspective from like you cover both the collegiate and the amateur space. It's unique.
Yeah.
Yep.
And first coach we've
When-
talked to, so that's always nice
Right.
as well.
When we get a guest on that I don't have to talk that much, that's how you know that
It's been good for me after
it's a
today
really
too.
good guest.
My voice is shot.
Oh, I also talk way too fucking much too. Dan tells me to shut up all the time. So
We're a little bit
nah,
more cordial than
Not at
Dan,
all.
but
it's just
we don't pay ya.
it's a part of my job.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of once the floodgates open, they
No,
don't stop.
Oh no,
you are
no, you have
speaking-
no sorry. It's been a
Yeah.
really fun conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
You're speaking to people who have made it their career to just talk, and people just like hopefully people listen. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why I talk so much too, is because like at the end of the day, this is a video game, but like I say it at Maryville, this is actually one of my recruitment like things that I have a list that players need to check off certain boxes in order to be recruited
Mhm.
by Maryville. One of the first boxes on that recruitment checklist is treats the video game not like a video game. You know, like this is not a game to them. It's a way of life.
Mhm.
You know, like at the end of the day, League is what puts food on my table and a roof over my head. And I was a stupid underachiever making burritos at Chipotle 5 years ago. So like without much of a future, without any purpose. So you know, just really being able to try to step up and make a positive change and, you know, kind of have the opportunity to create livelihoods for other people in this space is like, it's why I care so much. And it's why I get so angry about this shit when it happens, because I want it to fix. You know, I got kind of lucky and I was able to build a career off a lucky opportunity and some hard work, but I want other people to be able to have this sort of privilege that I do, to be able to wake up
Yeah.
and do this shit every day.
That's
So
funny.
hopefully, you know, the scene just keeps improving.
I like that. Like not treated like a video game. My cop out is always the 10 things you can do that require zero talent.
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
people.
that was actually, you know, actually funny enough, that was one of Clerky's guys.
Oh really?
Have you seen the tweet where it was like the 10 things that are make you better with no effort? It's like a whiteboard with 10 things listed.
Yeah. I mean, this has been like flying around like for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
2016. It's from 2016. So that was actually at Maryville.
Oh really?
Yeah, and that was actually written by one of the, I think it was like a Gears of War guy, and he actually just signed to United. So
Oh.
life
Small
comes
world.
like full circle, I think. But
Small world.
yeah, that's actually from Clerky. So yeah, I believe in that shit like so much. And at the end of the day, it's not just about building skill sets in games and having the best Jace player or the best Rek'Sai player or some bullshit. Like it's about having the most like competitively hungry, consistent, well-rounded people. You want to give these franchises players with really solid foundations. You're not trying to teach them to be world champions right now. You're trying to teach them how to be well-rounded. And you know, the first part of that is understanding that if this shit's really important to you, you're going to be open-minded, flexible, and make it work every day. So yeah.
Sure. All right. Well, as I said, it's been very fun talking with you. We've got a chat question from one Alk Battery. He asks, is Maryville your last team? Would you move to an LCS or given the chance? Or are you happy staying and building out your program in Maryville?
I'm happiest where I'm valued. And I'll be blunt in saying that, like, at Golden Guardians, I wasn't necessarily valued. I was somebody that was hired by Locodoco, not by the ownership. So when Locodoco was no longer there, I was just kind of another person to kind of fill space. I wasn't even hired to coach Academy. I was hired to be the assistant coach of the LCS team. So I kind of just had to get thrown in there and just make it work. But obviously, like, you know, we were all trying to figure it out back then, so no fault to them. But I was also just an immature little shit at the time. So, but Maryville, like, ever since I've been on this campus ever since day one. They treat me like family. Um, you know, people in the fucking cafeteria and stuff recognized us after we won champs. We got a standing ovation from students when we got our rings in February. Like it was, or last February, like all that stuff. We're really valued here, and the president really believes in us. Athletics really believe in us, and
You're making me jealous, man.
as long as long as that as long as that stays, then like I have no reason to leave. But
When the university buys in, if only.
yeah, I it's more self-improvement though than like when I went to Golden Guardians Academy and coached the academy team. Like I said, wasn't meant to coach academy, but it took some years of humbling to finally understand and recognize this. But I just wasn't ready, and I was pretty shit at what I was doing. I had the right ideas, but I just was terrible in executing. And what I just needed was time to try things, succeed, fail, kind of get experience under my belt. And Maryville just allows me to run the program exactly how I want and try things. I've done plenty of things that have failed internally, and I've done plenty of things that helped us succeed. So when I feel like I'm truly the best product I can be, and I can't get anything more out of Maryville, then maybe I look elsewhere. But I don't see that happening. I think amateur and collegiate needs me, as selfish as that sounds. So I kind of started at this level, and I think it's my purpose to kind of finish at this level too, and kind of be the person that makes this scene better. I kind of take it as I'm not like Dan and I joke all the time. We're not the director and head coach of Maryville. We're the director and head coach of like collegiate, basically, because we go around and we try to make other teams better too. And with our combine, which we're doing again this spring, and it's going to be bigger, better, and a lot more reach. And with the consulting work that Dan and I do, and the lessons and stuff, like we just really want to make this shit grow.
Two of my guys sat in on that combine and brought some really good things back that like we use as well now, like with the team, or like that they learned for Dylan and Troy. Yeah.
I personally, I see success as prosperity, peace of mind, and purpose. 3 Ps. So for me, I have peace of mind that I'm making a real difference at this level. I have purpose. Don't want to get into it too much, but I was kind of a fucked up teenager and a young adult. I had some issues, went to rehab and stuff. So like, I find it's kind of my purpose to be at this college level and to kind of help guide young adults to avoid the mistakes that I made. And, and I have the prosperity that we're doing well here. So I consider myself successful here, and I have no reason to ever change. I, bought a house, I settled down. I have friends here now, so I kind of don't really ever want to leave. But if I'll put it this way, I would never leave Maryville to coach an academy ever. If somebody is giving me an opportunity to head coach an LCS team because they believe in my systems, then I would consider it. But outside of that, I don't feel the need to move at all.
Awesome.
Fuck, man, that's like a deep point to answer a pretty simple question, but that bangs. I can't think of any other better point to wrap things up on. Obviously, floor is yours. Is there anything else you want to shout out or promote before we say goodbye?
So we got Arch Rivals going on. So that's a high school tournament.
Yeah,
that's
we're awesome.
Yeah, so it's St. Louis based. We're gonna have 10 St. Louis high school teams that we've worked with before, and we're helping build their programs.
It's fantastic.
And, we got that going on I think it's the 12th and the 13th of March. So in a little bit, and then we've also got the second Maryville Scouting and Recruitment Combine. Information will go out for that in about 2 weeks, but we're anticipating that'll be about 6 weeks out from now. So basically, once Proving Grounds is over.
I've got a couple fresh master tier players that couldn't participate last time that want to participate this time.
Yeah,
so they'll be looking forward to that.
We're going to be doing a whole lot of different stuff now, one-on-ones and like all like drills and all this stuff. So we're going to kind of make it more free-flowing than what it was last year. Last year was literally just 9 days of preparation, and me and like 5-6 volunteers just kind of threw it together. So But yeah, we got those two things excited to develop, and then we got collegiate playoffs coming up and looking to show people why we're the kings of collegiate. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show here, Zoo. Looking forward to all of those Maryville related events, and looking forward to casting you guys in Giant Slayer Spring Gauntlet too. It's going to be a real big blast. Really,
we're looking forward to
it.
Best of luck to you guys as well. We hope all the teams put their best foot forward, and hopefully you guys, can make top 4 and move on to the big event. Be fun.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we'll just see how it goes, but appreciate the time. It's hard to get an unbiased medium nowadays, so
that's our goal. Yeah, it's fun here. It's the more people we can get chatting, and the better conversations we can have, the better we all get. So this has been a lot of fun.
Yep. You are welcome here anytime, Zoo. We love it.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Of course. All right. Well, for those of you listening here to the end of the show, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been episode 11 with Zoo, coach of Maryville University. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. That's Thursday, the 4th of March, with Shoryu, the AD carry of Evil Geniuses Academy. So
that kid's legit.
Yeah, he's great.
Hey,
We're very excited to talk to him again. So definitely be sure to tune into that one. He's got the Zoo vouch, so not going to want to miss that.
Love that kid.
And check us out on all of our platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Apple. You can check us out on all those, and you'll hopefully tune into us tomorrow. And we'll see you then.
For sure.
Good night.